This video was dedicated to Scott Cawthon with the announcement that he may be retiring soon. Whenever you hear from someone even remotely famous, you always hear them mention how they came from nothing. More often than not, they claim to have come from nothing and had to fight their way to the top over a long period of time. It's really odd that this seems to be the case with nearly all major celebrities in the public eye today. The thing is, I don't think they're lying. If you're born into a good life, there's no reason to strive for more. If you have everything you need, why should you shoot for the top? But if you're lacking in life, or in a tough spot at all, there's a reason and a drive to push further and go beyond. Okay, that was a good intro. Now, let's talk about furries. Scott Cawthon's made a name for himself through Five Nights at Freddy's, a game that might seem innocent at first, but has dark subplots, hidden stories lurking behind obscure Easter eggs, and a boatload of lore. But most people don't give his old games a second thought. You may have heard of Chipper & Sons, a game that might seem innocent at first, but has dark subplots, hidden stories lurking behind obscure Easter eggs, and a boatload of lore. But you probably don't know too much about it. The same goes for the Desolate Hope, There Is No Pause Button, Sit and Survive, and the other dozens of games and animations under his belt. But where did this all begin? How did his career start, and who even cares? I can answer two of those questions.
All of that and more happening now.
Scott started in game development as a child with Doofus. I don't even know what to say about this, but hey, you gotta start somewhere. And it does have its charm. This was actually recreated as a troll game later on for the Ultimate Custom Night demo using FNAF characters instead of these original ones, which I think are like dinosaurs or something. You can download this new version for yourself on GameJolt. In the early 2000s, he joined Hope Animation, a Christian animation group also known for that meme. Funny enough, the animator of the Glob was apparently inspired by Scott, and you can tell there's some similarities between both of their old animations, though that may just be because they used the same software. Scott worked there for a while, making many Christian-themed animations, sometimes starring his own kids. In 2007, he began his Pilgrim's Progress series of animations on YouTube. This is a Christian animation based on a book by John Bunyan, which has been around for several centuries at this point. This got a fair amount of traction, receiving tens of thousands of views. He then made a game adaptation of the same thing. He would make several more animations and games which slowly started to receive bits and bits of traction. Some managed to be submitted to Steam Greenlight, their review process for potential games to be added to Steam. But this sparked some heavy criticism around many of the games submitted. But before we get to all that, let's talk about the games themselves. Scott at this time was not doing so well, as I hinted at the start of this video. He was working at Dollar General and making small games to help pay the bills. Hope Animation didn't make him much money, if any, for most years, so he had to rely on other methods to make ends meet, and both him and his family were struggling. His most successful game before FNAF was arguably the Desolate Hope. In it, you're in a space station far away from Earth, meant to find other planets for human colonization. The project was abandoned, and the station is now on its own. You play as a small service robot, Coffee Pot, charged with the mission of saving the machine's robots from a computer virus, and finding a way to complete your original mission. The game blended many different gameplay styles, including platformer, top-down shooter, turn-based RPG battle, and more. It was a big project, and as such, took a long time to make. And yet, it didn't receive the amount of success Scott was hoping for. Ultimately, it gathered a small following, but nothing that made the time spent worth it all for him. In the following years, he would mostly stick to smaller projects like Sit and Survive and There Is No Pause Button. There Is No Pause Button, or TINPB for short, is the origin game of Scott's avatar, Animdude. The game is a simple platformer that forces you to run forever, dodging obstacles with very few breaks and no save points. Sit and Survive, however, features a child going camping in the woods and facing off against all kinds of dangers by buying different tools to fend them off, from bears and snakes to zombies and an asteroid. You can tell there's a lot of variety between the genres and the stories in these older games, though you can definitely tell how, especially in the Desolate Hope, some of these ideas definitely rubbed off on FNAF. For Sit and Survive, I personally like this one more than TINPB, though I enjoy them both, but again, these weren't meant to be huge projects like some of Scott's older games. These were just meant to, as he put it, put food on the table. He did, though, make one more fairly sizable game called Chipper and Sons. This game follows a young beaver named Tyke, who's following in his father's footsteps at his lumber company. Over the course of the game, he helps out both his father and the woodland creatures he meets, and builds things to collect more materials to progress. But over the course of the story in this game, some darker themes do start to play out. From Mr. Chipper literally having eaten his own wife to a great war with the termites some years back, there's a lot here under the surface that very much reminds me of FNAF. Funny enough, though, the game was criticized for being too scary by most critics who tried out the game. Most notably, Jim Sterling. I don't know, I don't like this guy. He criticized the game for having characters that look like animatronics and that look like they'd kill kids. I mean, he wasn't too far off from what would happen later. And yeah, I can see where he's coming from. In a later video, he'd admit that the success Scott turned this failure into through FNAF is impressive and worth commending, but I don't know, man, a few years back I tried watching some of his older videos, and they just left a really negative taste in my mouth. But of course, this video is what fueled the idea for Five Nights at Freddy's. If his characters looked scary, why not use that to his advantage? Scott gave it a shot with another relatively small and simple game, where you watch evil robots on security cameras and try to keep them away while not being able to move from your location. It was a huge success and garnered many sequels, and you know the story from there. Now, we're where we are at today. FNAF is a massive multimedia franchise with over half a dozen games, more if you count the spin-offs, well over a dozen books, merch, and a movie in the works. It had taken a long time to get to the point he's at now, but through experimentation and learning from his mistakes, Scott managed to succeed. And that's pretty neat. Thanks for watching, I'll see you all soon.